Come, all you moonshiners, if you want to hear.
Well, welcome back to Barley and Hops. I'm George, and yes, I am dressed differently today. This is going to be just an introduction, a real quick showcase. You know, we're not only focused on distilling, brewing, things like that. We look for other ways in order to help the community expand their horizons. We'd also do a little bit of woodworking. We do a whole bunch of stuff out here. So we've converted the shop from the lab to the shop, and now from the shop to a wood shop. And I got to pull out all my woodworking tools and things. And I'll show you what I made recently. It took me 2.5 hours to actually fashion this and assemble. And that is my version of what I would like to call Odin'S paddle, George's fermentation paddle. Now here's the idea behind this. Real briefly, eons and eons and eons ago, and we know that the monks make a really, really good beer. In that process, they had this one device that they kept secretly stashed away, which was a secret stick or secret paddle. And every time they made beer, they had to use that same paddle. And they used that for all their mixing and all their, all that stuff. And they found that when they failed to use that they were using wild yeast in order to do their fermentation. But when they failed to use that paddle, that the results in their libations suffered dramatically. So one old monk said, hey, make sure you use that secret stick. So they kept using the same one. Now what was happening? Think about this. Yeast are a really, really robust organism. It would get itself inside all the wood grain, and it would start to soak in, and then they'd set the stick aside, paddle, whatever they had, and it would dry, and that yeast would sit there and wait. And then when they reintroduced that into a new batch, they were sharing some of that old yeast, the old yeast strain, with the new stuff, and lo and behold, they started to get some predictable results that were extremely good and repeatable. So they had what they called their secret stick. Well, we have our own. Now, we understand the science. We know about it now, but we have our own. And anyway, it's kind of cool. This just goes to show you that you can do kind of anything in the shop. And I had this idea several weeks ago, and I said, I'm going to get at it. So what I did was I wanted to use a wood that was not real permeable, or I didn't want it to be so porous that it sucked everything up, but then again, I didn't want it to be so hard that it resisted everything. So I chose mesquite. Mesquite has a density of about 50 pounds per cubic foot. Now you compare that to pine, like a soft pine, about 23 pounds per square foot, or cubic foot, I'm sorry. And then you've got oak, red oak, white oak is like 47, so it's really hard wood. Hickory is a really good hardwood, but they're not so hard like ebony. Ebony is so hard that it's hard for anything to soak into it. So I use that. And I just happen to have some laying around from some tables and things that we had been making. And so I've got a block here, and I just cut this off of a slab. This is about a 2 by 2, probably 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. That doesn't matter right now because we're going to get her down to where we need it to be. Now you can make yours any size, so please don't get wrapped around the axle about exactly what's the size of mine by micrometer and how did I measure that. You do it to feel. Put some personality into your own project. And then I cut some slabs of the same material, and look, that's a really nice looking wood grain on there. And I'll just run that through the planer and get that all the same thickness, which I want to be about 3/4 of an inch thick for the paddle itself. Anywhere between 1/2 and 3/4, it makes it sturdy enough. And then I only need 3 of those, so I'll put those 3 together, and I'll turn this one on my lathe, and voila, bada boom, bada bang, like 2.5 hours later, short of gluing my paddle together, I'm ready to assemble this thing. I just take a bandsaw and I just cut my slot and cut an opposing slot in the paddle itself and just mate those together with a rubber mallet, beat them down, and no screws, Nothing like that. It holds itself together extremely well. If nothing else, it makes a great conversation piece. Stay tuned. I'll show you just briefly how I went through this. And like I said, it's like two and a half hours of real get at it work. Other than that, it's just a lot of fun to do. It breaks up the monotony. And also in our preparation for Friday's, the 13th of March, our live stream. Yep, it's a coming. So I want to get it primarily square and get it a little smooth on the edge, and I'll just use the table planer to get this thing right. But what I do have now is I have, at least as my edges for my joiner, so that these things will mount together very smoothly. So there we go, 13 inches. I got 3 of them, 13 inches. And they'll be the same size, there we go, of the paddle we already have made. All I gotta do now is connect these. I'll show you that. Now these 3 puppies that go together just like this, and I've got them in these long clamps, all you gotta do is offset that center one, because remember that center one is going to be cut into here. So I'll only notch out probably halfway, halfway between here and here is notched out, and the other half is notched out here, so that when these slide together, they make a firm seal, a firm connection. So we'll just glue those that way. And well, I'm ready to turn the handle, but I don't want to spend a lot of time, I'm not going to, about setup, but there are a lot of things that are specific about using a wood lathe. So if you're not familiar with a wood lathe, let someone else do it for you. It's not that hard once you get it all figured out, and you learn, but you can be real efficient and effective with this, or you can be all over the map. So I'm not going to spend any time to tell you how. But I've got it set, I've got it adjusted the right way. We're just going to go ahead and start going at it now. And I've got my extractor running because this thing's going to make a mess. Well, a finalization here. This is our paddle, and all we got to do is just fashion this, round the edge of it, and then just a little bit of cut in here, just in order to make that thing fit snug. Time to pull out the bandsaw. Oh, perfect. Well, there you have it. 1 Odin'S paddle. 2 Odin'S paddles. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's just something else that we do out here while we I got nothing else to do. Happy distilling.